Brian, stop the tape.
Okay, Mike. Oh, wait. Rewind that scene, please.
Rewind that scene.
Rewind that scene.
Rewind it.
Rewind that scene. Rewind that scene.
I'm Mike Rizzo.
And I'm Brian Bonds.
I love Bon Bon. And this is A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints, a Bobo Touch podcast by Rewind That Scene. I fucked it up, but we're going to keep it in.
Exactly.
Hi.
This is a special movie.
So this is 2006. It features a lot of really great celebrities who are now kind of a big deal, but this was when they were kind of more underground, right?
I think
Channing
so.
Tatum. I mean, obviously Robert Downey is a big deal. Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Melanie Diaz, Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can't forget Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, he's in the movie.
Chaz Palminteri. This movie, when we watched it, we were like, holy shit. I mean, I guess we were a big fan of Kids and all that. This just has like a New York City rawness, right? The violence, the drugs, the beatings.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
It really resonates with a lot of characters we grew up around and captures just a sort of life going on under the subway tracks.
Yeah.
Queens. I mean, you got these people who are just, doing things that especially the evil kids.
I know.
In the movie, you just they have nothing to lose, man.
Yep.
And especially Mike, the Irish kid,
Oh,
that character. There's so many good movies. I mean, and Chaz Palminteri in this. I mean, we keep going, but you're right. Channing Tatum was basically really not in a lot of films before this. There's a lot of early Melanie Diaz, I think,
She's
after this
great.
did Be Kind and
Be Kind,
Rewind that scene.
She's so great. and also I know we were really after this we were really hooked on Dito Montiel, the director. So it's
He's
such
great.
an honor to have
It's
him
a
on.
great book.
Yeah, it is, right? Oh my God. So we just have a lot of questions for him, and this movie also has a lot of interesting. I remember, for me, I'm a film editor. It has a lot of interesting editing techniques where it's kind of like jarring and fragmented, right?
Yeah.
There's
Plays
certain
with
kind
time
of
well.
yeah,
too.
yeah. There's a lot of cool techniques and things that they did in this that I remember just being that's really interesting and cool and different. But yeah, I mean, hey Brian, don't you have to go pick up your son?
Shit.
Yeah.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
I have to go to the main office. Let me get him.
Is he okay?
It's a neurovirus. It's going around.
Oh my God.
Yeah, pretty trippy, the whole deal. I mean, I honestly had no idea how movies were made. I didn't plan to be in this business at all. It was not a dream. Not that I don't love it, but it just was not on my radar. My father was a typewriter mechanic from Nicaragua, so this was definitely not on our family's radar. But I always loved to write, so I wrote this weird book in pen. And a guy I worked with at Tower Records years earlier, he worked at a publishing place, and I sent him literally, I made copies of it because, it was not typed, and I sent it to him, and he put this thing out. It's a miracle. If 10 people had read it, I would be shocked. One of them happened to be Robert Downey.
Oh my God.
I had a job at the time working in a recording studio in Los Angeles for a friend named Jonathan Elias, and Robert was recording a record there at the time.
So cool.
So he was coming in and out, and he's such a trip. And over the years, we had kind of seen each other here and there in weird circumstances, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
And me and the guy who ended up being the editor of the film, we worked in a dub room together.
Oh.
Jake, his name is, because it was a place that did commercials and records, and it was a music studio. And there was a bunch of composers that worked there that did Wishmaster 3,
Yeah.
really great, terrible horror movies and commercials. So
Perfect.
I worked in the dub room with Jake, who ended up being the editor, and we would just mess around because we were bored and make, we would take Budweiser commercials and recut them because what the hell else are you going to do in there,
Oh, it's so good.
And on iMovie, because it was free, and put music because we didn't have to pay anybody, so we could put whatever we want on it. And then we got a little thing where you can record phone calls. Not as fancy as this, but the old Radio Shack suction cup, and we stick it to the back of the phone.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who was in jail at the time for many years, he would call collect. And of course, the receptionist was my friend, so she'd accept it. And we would start, it's not very scrupulous, but we would start recording the conversations. And we would put them into our little weird edits and put music to it and him talking. And then Robert came in and he's like, what are you guys up to? You know, I'd be like, check this out. And, you know, we didn't plan to make a movie, you know, and he'd be like, oh, that's really excellent. You know, and he'd crack up and he's like, we should do a movie, you know, and I was like, yeah, you know, and then I remember he left and me and Jake, with the editor, I was like, oh no, like, we'd actually need money if he wants to make a movie, you know, like, you know, like film and, you know, so it became this insane dream that started to percolate in me for sure. And, I mean, it's a crazy long story, but the quick version is he said, hey, Trudy Styler, who's married with Sting, she's thinking of doing a film with me. Maybe we could all get together. So I go to lunch from my dub room with, you know, Robert and Trudy and Sting. It's pretty odd.
Oh my God.
And they talked about making a movie out of my book. And I was like, yeah, you know, I tried to hint like, maybe I could kind of write it, you know?
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, you know, we have these great writers who, they wrote a movie at the time with Ben Kingsley. It was like a big movie where he's like yelling in it. I can't remember the name of the movie. And we're going to get them to write it. And I said, oh, okay. Then they made the mistake of saying, well, and they can't start for 2 months, but then they will. And then if we don't like what they do, then we'll give you a shot. And I'm thinking, of course you're going to like what they're really great, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I heard 2 months, so I quickly went and got a script at a place on Hollywood Boulevard that sold scripts. I mean, we're going back, you know,
oh, wow.
20 years. And I knew that they liked a movie called United States of Leland. So I bought that script, you know, $5, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I started copying the way it looked into Microsoft Word.
Oh my God.
A lot of spacing.
This
you know,
is great.
It's nuts, you know, and I thought like,
I love this.
I just put their characters from Leland, in, you know, my guys, you know, and then my streets. And then, but I thought INT meant introducing, you know, because I thought you're introducing the street, but then they keep reintroducing it. So it didn't make sense. And then Robert would come in and out and I'm like, Robert, why would they introduce the street? And he goes, it's interior. And I was like, oh, and then I said, what about exit? He goes, that's exterior. So that was
I love the innocence, man. Oh my God. It's
insane.
so good.
Insanity meets innocence.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, of course.
And utter
Insane,
obsession and fear. But anyway,
you have to have all of that. Yeah.
It's a combination. And then,
oh my God.
yeah. So, and then that script, funny enough, it got passed around. I don't really know how. And a woman that I have yet to ever meet named Leslie Erdang, who one day I will meet her and really say thank you.
That would be nice.
Because she passed it on to Sundance Labs, which is a great thing for any writer out there or director that hopes to be, or an actor, whatever. And I had my phone number on it. I put my real name Orlando because I thought it's too weird if they read it and the character's name is me, you know?
Yeah.
So and I got a call at my job from Michelle Satter, who runs the Sundance Labs. And she said, hey, you know, we like your script and we're from Sundance. And I never heard of the Labs. I don't know if you know the Labs, but it's a little bit. It's a great, it's incredible. Yeah. It's like Wonkerville. So
totally.
I said, hey, man, we didn't make a movie yet. We can't go to Sundance. I had heard of Sundance. She goes, no, it's the Labs. And I'm like, well, how much does it cost? And she's like, it's free. And I'm like, free? Where is it? She's like, Utah. I'm like, how do I get there? We would fly you. And I thought it was like a Learning Annex scam, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I was like, I'll take your number down and I'll call you back, which is so dumb. And then I had the luxury of Robert being in my corner, Downey. So I said one day, I said, you know, Robert, I got this weird call from Sundance. He goes, you better call them back.
Oh, good.
Then this incredible, you know, I went to that and I was suddenly, for any writer out there, you should apply because it's a dream beyond a dream. And suddenly you're there, free food, you sleep in the teepee, it's freaking nuts. And they assign different writers, Carlos Cuarón, who wrote Y Tu Mama Tambien.
Oh, yeah.
And which I should remember the guy's name because he wrote Dog Day Afternoon, and it's insane that I can't recall his name right now. And he also wrote Cool Hand Luke. He's one of the great writers ever. And I was and Walter Mosley. So I had these incredible people that suddenly are critiquing this insanity that I wrote. That was a disaster, but they liked the voice and then a bunch of other things fell into place. And then Trudy said to me, I said to Robert, man, I think I could try, you know, like I was so afraid to ask because I thought, they're going to think I'm crazy. I mean, I can't believe I got this far, you know?
Yeah.
I said, you know, maybe I could direct it or something. And Robert, who's just as nutty as me, you know, was like, Yeah, I'll ask Trudy. I was like, I was so freaked out, but not.
Yeah.
I was more embarrassed to have the nerve to ask for something like that
Yeah.
than
It's
scared of doing it. But Trudy, who's another one in the crazy world, I was just very lucky, called up and gave me the deal of a lifetime. And she said, well, Mr. Downey thinks you can direct this thing now.
oh my God, dude.
I said, I swear I think I can. And then she said, well, I'll make a deal with you. You make an 8-minute short. Robert said he'll be in it. And if we like it, you can direct it.
Oh,
And
perfect.
you get no budget because you seem to be doing everything without a budget anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So I made this short with Robert, and she liked it enough, and we ended up making a movie. So I mean,
Oh my God.
and Jake ended up being the editor. So it was like beyond, and he didn't know anything either. He didn't know what crossing the lines were. People like, that's so cool how you cross the lines, and he's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know.
I love that because I came up the ranks as an assistant editor in commercials as well. So I kind of know that
excellent.
I know that bond. You know what I mean? Like you're bringing your guy with you. You
It's
have this
incredible.
opportunity. Like you're bringing the family in.
And the relationship with an editor is maybe more than anybody in many ways. It's quite remarkable. Yeah.
So now you have this let's just say we'll flash forward to the greenlit movie. How did you like? I mean, obviously, I feel like your casting is always so like A+, even with Riff Raff coming out. I know there's all these stories about Shia LaBeouf and all that, but like,
Totally.
maybe you just like touch a little bit on just the casting because the casting, these are all these young actors who are now like major players.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, I had seen City of God at the time, because I was trying to get a little more fancy than watching Big Brother, because that's all I really watch. And so I saw City of God and I fell in love with it. And I remember reading that it was all first-time actors, and I was like, oh, that's the way I got to do it, And I found all these kids in New York that I was like, okay, I got to make it with them. And that's who I made the short with, besides Robert,
Okay.
It was all, so I thought I'm going to make a film like that. And Trudy was like, no, you need real actors. And she was very right. And I mean, you look, City of God is a masterpiece, so you don't. I mean, you never know. But I didn't quite respect acting as the art that it is because I didn't understand it. It was all very new to me, and it felt like, if you look cool, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But then Shia at the time, I was obsessed with this young actor. I can't remember who, but Shia's agent called me up and said, hey, Shia wants to send you a tape. And I don't know who anybody is. I kind of knew, but, and he sent me a VHS and it was so insane. I remember I was sitting in a room with like 8 people and I go, I don't know, this guy sent the tape. Let's check it out. I put it on and the whole place went freaking nuts. And I was like, wow, he's pretty good, And then I had the kid that was in my short that I wanted to play the role of Antonio. And then she says, Trudy again, I was really lucky to get so many opportunities from her and also good guidance. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, it was like, she's like, okay, you got to meet this guy, Channing Tatum. And I didn't know who he was. And I had written this impossible to love in my mind guy that was not the most handsome guy in my, not obviously handsome, maybe is the way to say it. And impossible to love. And I meet this guy who's a sweetheart and he's, a male model from Alabama. And I'm like, okay, this is disaster. And then we start talking and I was like, kind of intrigued with him. I said, oh, this guy's pretty special. And then we started thinking about the role in a kind of mice and men way where he kind of breaks you and then tries to put you back together because he didn't mean it.
Yeah.
And then I could not see anyone but him in the role. And then, all these other actors started showing up and people I didn't know were so talented.
You feel his intensity and his emotion, man. Like it's like crazy good. Like the way he's all bruised up and his like shirt's always like half open, showing his chest. Just like the dynamic on like the trains and I love the streets and the locations. I'm from New York, so this movie like was like hard hitting for me, man.
Thanks.
Like I feel like we like hung out with guys like this that look just like them.
yeah.
So,
it was fun. Yeah,
I fucking love the Chaz Palminteri scene when there's like it's really emotional at the end. So
in the
many
bathroom.
Like this, I don't know how to pick my favorite, but like if you had
I have a good story about that scene.
Because go for it.
The writer who I now remember, Frank Pearson, who wrote Dog Day Afternoon, he gave me such good advice, and it's great advice for anybody that wants to write away because I was learning as I was going, still am, of course, but I I had that scene where they go into the bathroom together. I had written it that they go to the bathroom, the door closes, and then you cut to Shia on the bus, and then the movie's over, right? So Frank, who's like a really tough old guy, he says, what are you doing, man? You know, I paid $12. It's a little more expensive to go to movies now. He's like, I paid $12 for this movie. You closed the freaking door on me. Open the door. Let me in. And I was like, he goes, I know you're trying to be arty, Sundance, but open the door. We paid money. We want to see what happens in that bathroom. You build the whole movie to this father and son, and then you close the door on us. And I thought, and I still am not sure what was the right answer, but I thought, no, the door closing is better. He said, open the door. So in spite of his brilliance, I thought, I'm going to show him how wrong this idea was. And I started working on that scene, and then I was like, maybe it could be good. And then when you have two great actors like Shia and Chaz, I remember we were lucky enough that we found an apartment in Astoria, Queens, it had two doors to the bathroom, which is odd. So we can put cameras on both sides. The only time we had two cameras, and
so cool.
And then Shia comes up to me and he says, I think I might really hit Chaz, you know, in the scene. And I said, really? He said, yeah. So I'm thinking, well, I'm glad we have two cameras. And then, then I'm also thinking, Chaz is a pretty big guy, you know, like, I don't know. You hit him, you might not be so happy about it. And then Chaz comes over to me and he goes, you know, this kid's a little off his stuff. You know, if he gets a little too heavy, it might get heavy in there. I said, okay. And then, but they're so good, and that they, you know, you're very lucky that you have two really good actors that could go there, because they went. It was so uncomfortable to be there. And then, but they knew exactly how to pull it back, you know, and not literally come to blows. Although I really thought there's a part where Chaz raises his hand.
Like, don't you touch me. Yeah.
I think he was going to hit him. Yeah.
I think I know what you mean about like not seeing it, but for me, I kind of really enjoyed that. I don't know. Like maybe it hit some weird like father shit with me. I don't know. Like it was, I don't know. I thought it was really good.
He wrote Dog Day Afternoon, so he should be listened to.
Were there any other like kind of bonding moments or any other like stories that you could share? Because we have a lot of fans I think are going to love this movie. So like any little things that you would love to share?
Well, you know, the first day of filming, right, was insane, because I'd never been on a set in my life. I don't know and when I say I don't know anything, I know people think I did. You know, but I knew nothing. I remember them saying change the mag, which I later learned. 3 movies later, I found out meant change the film. I never knew what they meant. I would just pretend I knew. And I'd be like, yeah, change the mag. I don't know. It's funny. Now
like,
that I know what it means. Check the gate. Which means nothing now, because there is no film. But we're getting ready to film the first day, and I was pretty freaked out, you know. But, you know, you're so overwhelmed that you're not even freaked out. You're just like, what else am I going to do? You know what I mean? So we were doing the scene. It's a heavy scene to go into first, but we're in the house with Chaz, and he has a seizure in it. And everyone's in it. Diane Wiest. I mean, that's the whole gang is there, you know? And so Channing was hanging around because we're going to film him later. He wasn't written to be in that scene. And he says, so I said, hey, man, why don't you just go in the scene, you know? And then the actress Julia, who plays Diane, I said, you go in the scene too. And she's like, what do I do? And I go, just walk around and annoy Chaz. Like, so if you watch the scene, she's just walking around touching things, and he's looking back. And it's great. It's insanity. Fellini, you know? And then, so Channing says, well, what am I going to do in the scene? And I'm like, I don't know, you know? And so he says, yeah, but, you know, like when the father has a seizure, would I cry? And I was thinking, oh, I don't know. You know, I said, look, I never know. I don't pretend to know. I love what actors bring, especially when you have good ones like Channing and all these guys. So I said, well, I would think that the guy would want to kill somebody. Like, the nerve of him to die on you. Like, this is the only person. If he does that, kill somebody. So he goes, well, who should I kill? And I'm thinking, well, if I say Shia, he might attack Shia. As I said, well, kill Diane Wiest, because no one's going to kill Diane Wiest, you know? So we said, let's film one. I was thinking of something I saw at the labs again, because you get to play Willy Wonka there. It's incredible. You film these scenes while you're there, and you have all these, you know, Robert Elswit, who filmed Boogie Nights, was a DP hanging around. And I remember I was trying to do something like Boogie Nights, and I was like, you know, in Boogie Nights, they did and it was I'm like, wait, it was like that Woody Allen movie. I'm like, wait, you did this. And he's like, yeah, you might want to get her to walk with the camera. So I had seen someone at Sundance had thought to do a scene without the actors talking, mime it. Sounds like a terrible idea. And 9 out of 10 times it probably is. And, but I said, okay, let's try that, you know? So Chaz says, what are we going to do? I said, I'm going to read out all the script. You guys mime it. And Chaz is like, these Sundance guys, you know? So we start rolling, and Eric Gauthier is the DP, and he's really incredible and very lucky to have worked with him because he doesn't believe in marks and some of my favorite directors are very particular. I didn't understand anything, so I sure as hell couldn't tell you where to stand. That's his style. He filmed, Motorcycle Diaries and Sean Penn's movie Into the Wild. So start doing the scene, and it's heavy, you know, and I'm saying the lines, and they start moving and acting, and then Chaz has he starts doing the seizure thing, and then he falls down. And, you know, it's really heavy, but I'm saying it all. You know, I'm behind the camera just yelling this insanity out. And then, so everyone's talking to me while we're doing it because we're supposed to just be rehearsing. And Channing's like, who should I kill? And I'm like, Diane Wiest. And he's like, and it's getting really heavy. You know, everyone's really getting as that scene is heavy, it was heavy in the room, you know. Chaz is bringing it. Shy is always on fire. And Melanie is there. It's just incredible. A bunch of great actors that are on fire. And then everyone's getting really loud. So Channing's yelling, who should I kill? I'm like, kill fucking Diane Wiest. And he picks a table up. And Diane's coming, and she's barefoot in the scene. You can see it. And he throws a desk at her, you know, and it smashes the glass. The glass goes all over the place, which is real. You know, we only had one glass. I'm thinking this is the greatest thing I ever saw, right? I'm like, oh, I'm loving it. So we play it to the end of the scene, and Diane comes down to Chaz, and she's trying to make him, you know, when you have a seizure, grand mal.
Puts the hand in the mouth.
Which is not exactly the way you do it anymore, but that's the way I grew up. My father used to have grand mal seizures. So we would do that. Then the scene ends, and I'm thinking, that was great. And Eric Gauthier, who's just as nuts as me, he's like, that was great. And the producers come running like, what, are you out of your mind? You know? And I'm like, but to your question about the bonding, what happened there was a miracle, right? And I would not say to try this trick twice. And how it worked, I'll never know. But one of the people grabbed Channing and was like, hey, man, that's really dangerous. You don't do that, you know? So Chaz comes over and grabs that producer and says, don't you touch him, you know? Freaking the director told him to do that, right? But what was really incredible, as corny as it may sound, and I'm not a big believer in the mystic of gods on a movie set, but if you know the movie, Chaz's character always protected Channing's character. And he was doing that. And Diane comes over to me and says, I don't know if I feel safe around that guy. Well, that character didn't feel safe around Antonio. And Shia is looking like, this is out of control. You know, this set is out of control, which is the character. And Melanie, who's incredible, is great. Like, I just need a moment to step outside. And I'm thinking, that's Laurie. So they all fell into character in the most awful way you could imagine. But so I wouldn't try that twice, but it worked once, you know?
Well, that scene, man. I also love the cut to blacks and the audio dropouts, right? That whole scene is crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well done.
Yeah, everybody pitched in. Yeah,
my inner editor was like, "Oh my god, all the overlapping and the way things drop out and cut it." You know what I mean? Like a lot of good things in there.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have much of a plan. The only plan that me and Jake had talked about as an editor was to try and make it feel like, okay, memory, right, is weird, and it's never quite correct. It's always a little off, and it's in and out. Like right now, we're on this weird Zoom, right? And if like an ostrich walked behind me, you'd probably laugh. And then if a bomb blew me up, in 20 years, someone would say to you, what happened? And you say, I don't know. We were on Skype. Like you'd probably get something wrong, you know, like it wouldn't be, we were on Skype, and then an ostrich, you remember the ostrich, and then a bomb blew up. So
right.
The plan, if there was one with the editing, was it's going to be incorrect and blotchy. And
there are moments where it's a little fragmented, right? Like on the street, there's some quick cuts and things that kind of feel in a purposeful way.
We were trying to go with a gut feeling too.
Yeah, it was really nice.
But he's a great editor, and now he's working all the time. So
hell yeah. So let's talk about Riff Raff.
I love this movie. It's freaking nuts. It's nuts. And it was written by John Polano, who's a friend, and he's a playwright. And he writes these great little plays that are like super excellent and weird. And this was a play that was all in a room. And we were thinking, well, maybe this could be a fun movie, you know? So we played on it to bring it out of the room a little bit, although a lot happens in a room. And I was like, you know, I think we could make this movie. And, you know, looking around, and then luckily, one of the producers knew Jennifer Coolidge, who I was the last person on this earth to know who Jennifer Coolidge is, because I don't know anybody. I watch 90 Day Fiancé now. Like, my life is horrible, you know? And
I
was
know the
watching
old
White
her.
Lotus, yeah.
Yeah, then of course White Lotus. I was like, I know her from Pootie Tang, believe it or not, like some old Louis C.K. stuff. But yeah, I mean, White Lotus, she's incredible. Holy shit.
Yeah, I saw her on that, and I had been imagining, like, when the play was written, it felt like a whole family of Virginia Woolfs, and I was thinking, who's Elizabeth Taylor or Shelley Winters these days? And then I'm watching White Lotus, and I'm like, whoever that is. And my wife is like, that's Miss Stifler or whatever the hell. And you don't know
How do you not know her?
I know. And then so now I'm well schooled in her. And so I was so lucky that she said, yeah. And she came on board, and then we ended up getting Ed Harris, who was another advisor of mine at Sundance, who's, I don't have to speak for Ed. I mean, he's as good as they come.
Yep.
And then Bill Murray and Gabrielle Union, Pete Davidson. It's insane.
Hell yeah.
And it was a freaking dream, you know? And it's like, again, it's like I'm always blown away by, as much as this sounds like a dumb thing, it's like, you know these people your whole life on TV, right? Like, they're kind of like, I'm one of these guys that has to tell you who you are. Like, if I meet Al Pacino, I'm like, wow, you're Al Pacino. Like it's horrible because I can't believe it, you know? And Bill Murray is clearly one of those people, you know? And then they come to the set, and on top of everything else, he's super cool. And the guy can freaking act. And maybe that seems like an odd thing to say, because of course he can act, but it just blew my mind. And it's like, oh, wow. And, you know, Pete, you know all these people from weird ways. But like, I'm always like, wow. Because if you put a camera on me, it's really scary, you know?
Right.
But they're so good. And I love the movie. It's kind of got some Saints trippiness going on in it.
Yes. I was going to say, I would imagine with your style.
Yeah, we definitely played with it a lot. So it's a fun movie, and it'll be really fun to see it. We've played it to theaters with people, so it seems to be getting a good reaction. So we'll see.
All right.
Oh man,
is he okay? Does he really have the norovirus?
Yeah, you know, ginger ale is the best. You gotta take good
ginger whale or ginger ale. I thought it was ginger whale.
It's ginger whale.
Ginger whale.
You gotta make sure you gotta have the right ice pops.
Yeah. Did you have emergency for him? Emergency
Gatorade. Dude.
What else?
What an incredible interview, dude.
Yeah, he's great. Go see Riff Raff. It's out now. Star-studded cast. What a great idea.
We got our Staten Island homie, Pete Davidson, represent New York in there.
That's
Jennifer Coolidge. You got Bill Pullman's son in the movie. I mean, it really is a star-studded cast.
Yes, it is. Anyway, go check us out online. Give us a follow at Bobo Touch. Thank you, Dito Montiel. Thanks for everyone for listening. And we will catch you next time, baby.